All right, hello and welcome to Camel Finance. I'm your boy Camel, and today I've got a little bit of Bitcoin news for you, a little bit of traditional finance, and then we're going to jump into some charts. So without further ado, Hong Kong is moving forward. Hong Kong Rating Agency has announced its virtual asset index in addition to Bitcoin, ETH, stablecoins, and will include wrapped Bitcoin, BTCB, and a whole heap of other things, as you can see right here. I'm not going to go through that list, but the message is quite clear, and the message is that Hong Kong is indeed moving forward. The Purpose ETF holding hit a year-to-date high of 24.7k Bitcoin. So this has gradually been increasing over the past few days. And if you look at the hard right edge here, you can see that this is starting to tick up. I expect this is going to continue. And we're seeing this as traditional finance scrambles and CME futures open interest has skyrocketed over the past week or so. Bitcoin continues to do Bitcoin things, and in the weaker currencies such as the Turkish lira, we have yet another all-time high. CNBC doesn't quite get it. They're sitting here saying Bitcoin is up 12% this month, even though barely anyone is trading it. And the truth is, this is because there's just not enough supply. Remember, it doesn't take, let's say the market cap of Bitcoin right now is 600 billion. It doesn't take another 600 billion to double the market cap. That's not what it takes. We don't need 600 billion inflows because most of the coins are in lockdown. Most of the coins haven't moved for over a year. In fact, it's just under 70% of coins have been dormant for an entire year. 69k Bitcoin was not enough to coax most people to sell. They've sat all the way through that, all the way down to 15k, and now back up to 30, and they haven't even flinched. Go back a few more years before that, and the supply that's dormant is north of 40%. North of 40% of the supply hasn't moved in 5 odd years. So there really is a scarcity issue here, particularly with the likes of BlackRock, Fidelity, and all of these other institutions that are running to compete to stack as much Bitcoin as they can so that they can back their spot ETFs with them. And there's likely only a couple of million coins that are actually in circulation available to buy. Couple that with the fact there's less than 2 million coins left to be mined between now and the year 2140. It does not take a great deal of money to move this market. And fitting in with this theme of there not being much Bitcoin available, you can see we continue to make new relative lows for the exchange balances. More and more Bitcoin is coming off of exchanges as more and more people realize that the best thing to do with this thing is just to hold on to it. So cold store it, take ownership, and sit back and collect the yield. We're also seeing miners such as Riot purchase 33,000 Bitcoin miners for 163 million ahead of the Bitcoin halving. So more and more miners continue to also be in this technological arms race. And of course, the hash rate pictured here in orange continues to skyrocket. So mining is becoming more and more competitive. There is less and less supply every single day available for these more and more miners to share or to compete for. And as I said earlier, more and more of the supply just keeps being hoovered up by people that understand they want to hold this thing for the longer term, as they understand more and more that Bitcoin is indeed the exit. Not only is it the exit, it's also functioning as a true form of money now. Look at this. This is Bitcoin Lightning, and it's actually faster than MasterCard. Lightning is on the left here with MasterCard on the right. And as you can see, bang, Lightning wins this round, still waiting, and there's your MasterCard. So this is really functioning as a money as well as an asset class. What a time to be alive. However, it's not all sunshine and rainbows at the moment for Bitcoin, as in Luxembourg, Bitcoin held over a year is allegedly going to be taxed at 48.78%. This seems insane to me. Just next door in Germany, there's 0% tax for the same set of conditions. I do wonder if you could dodge the tax legally by selling the day before you've held it a year and then buying it back the following day. I don't really know, but this seems absolutely nonsense to me. And before we get into traditional finance, let me show you this. Could Bitcoin reach 100x the value of gold by the end of 2023? 100 ounces per Bitcoin. Is that feasible? Well, this chart, as you can see, seems to suggest that. We've got Bitcoin against gold here. If indeed we do get this left translated cycle top, if indeed the all-time high does come this year, I wonder if we can indeed get up to 100x the price of gold. If this was to play out, and let me be clear, I am by no means saying this will play out, but if this is to play out, I would be very, very tempted to exit a large portion of my Bitcoin into gold up here, as we can then expect gold to significantly outperform over the shorter term. So over in traditional finance, have a look at this. Where are we in the cycle? Are we at the start of a bull or in the middle of a bear? As you can see, most people think we are in the middle of a bear market. Scrolling through the comments, you'll find no shortage of people that are 100% sure of themselves that this is the middle of a bear market. Nobody really knows, right? I actually think it's neither of these. I think we're at the end of a mini bear market. Excuse me, a mini bull market. I think we're at the end of a mini bull market. I think we're going to have this new all-time high set. I think we're close to finding the cycle lows. We'll get to the charts at the end. I think we're going to rally up, maybe come down into a weekly cycle low, make this all-time high, and then I think we go big deflationary bust, as denoted by this huge yellow arrow plunging downwards. As ever, one day at a time. One thing we do know is in just 3 weeks since they suspended the debt ceiling, the debt has increased by 700 billion. It increased by over 500 billion in the first 2 weeks, and now just 1 week later, we're at $700 billion. This is why I am sure that the printer is coming. There's no other way to service this debt other than to print it out of existence. And this is why I'm also championing this idea that whilst we are in a decline of CPI at the moment, and whilst I think we're about to go into that deflationary bust after the all-time highs are set for the stock market, I do think all roads lead to more cowbell, meaning the printer is going to come back on and we likely are going to get another spike in inflation, just like we saw in the 40s and just like we saw in the 70s. So whilst I think inflation is going to come down, continue to come down in the short term, and whilst I think ultimately that is going to lead to this deflationary bust, after we've had the bust, I do believe the only one way out of it, especially because debt is spiking so significantly, is to continue to print more and more money. And we can see that M2 supply is already expanding again. This is an absolutely brutal reality for the people that do not hold assets, but for those that are financially literate, for those that are fortunate enough to hold assets such as Bitcoin, tech stocks, physical gold and physical silver, there is a massive opportunity awaiting for us. And before we get into the charts, I wanted to share this with you. Did you know that when the S&P 500 is up over 10% year to date by the end of June, the next 6 months do much better than average? And there's a caveat to this, because when we have this set of conditions and the S&P up over 10%, but the year before was negative, just like we have at the moment, obviously 2022 was a negative year, things are even better walking forward for the remaining 6 months of the year. So the next 6 months, based on historical data, had a median gain of 12.4% and was higher 89% of the time. Said another way, historical data suggests that we will indeed set a new all-time high sometime in the next 6 months, and we have a 90% probability of doing so. Remaining overweight equities and buying weakness is also going to be my strategy. And so the dollar still trending down, isn't it? Not much more to say about that. Still holding this gold short, and we'll continue to push until we get a breakout of this downward sloping blue resistance line. Similar story for silver. Still patiently waiting on the sidelines. Get a breakout above this downward sloping blue resistance line, and I will add along. Whether it comes from up here or all the way down here, that is to be determined. Over in the stock market, the S&P 500, I was talking about, wasn't I, this two drives pattern. Set a low, come down, sweep the first low, and then form a swing, mark that as the cycle low, and go again. So I think we've got a good candidate here for our first drive lower, our counter trend bounce. Now what I'm looking for is a second drive lower that preferably undercuts the first low that was set 2 sessions ago. If we can get that and form a swing, we can call that the cycle low. We can move the stop up, put another trade on, and go again. So far, so good, but I do want to see that undercut. At the very least, I want to see a double bottom form here. So perfectly in line with that one. Of course, you know what a double bottom is. I still have a little bit of PTSD that perhaps what we're going to see is a face melting rip out of here, and then we end up calling this the cycle low. That's what Bitcoin did. And like I said, I've still got a bit of PTSD left over from Bitcoin, but I'm not going to go rushing in here. If we did, however, end up forming an early cycle low and start blasting off out of here, then I will use the break of the prior high as my entry. I don't think that's likely. I think more likely what we're going to get is one more rollover that undercuts that low and go. But as ever, we take it one day at a time. A few more sessions ahead. If I measure low to low, something like this, we've got, as of today, we'd be on 37. So anywhere between 38 and 42 would be a perfect 40-day cycle low. So I think there's a few more sessions. I think there's a bit more space to get down there one more time. If I hop into the NASDAQ, you can see we didn't break out yesterday, so no buy trigger here. Still patiently waiting on the side, still hoping that we should, in theory, be able to get one more final flush down and then go again on a breakout. Same story for the Dow Jones, so counter trend bounce, maybe one more flush down, undercut that low and go. Again, a little bit more patience into the end of the month, and I think we've got some good trade setups here. Still holding this VIX position. The VIX should have spiked by now, to be honest. With the S&P cycle clearly topped, we should be about to undercut that low, as I said. And therefore, the VIX should have spiked a bit by now. I'm not talking about a massive blast off. I'm just talking about some kind of counter trend bounce up to at least, I would have thought 17 or 18. But the VIX isn't behaving, and that's fine, Because to be honest, if this is going to continue to just chop around in here, pay a stop and work our way down, you know what that means, right? That means fireworks is coming out of these daily cycle lows for the equity markets. So I'll take the stop on this all day long if that means once we find this cycle low, we're going to come out of here swinging. Here's Tesla. So Tesla in the middle of a pullback. I think this is buyable whenever it stops. I think we have to readjust this blue upwards open support line, as I said, but I think we can go again. Apple holding up really well, isn't it? Sitting clearly above all-time highs. So I would think once the S&P has found its cycle low, this is likely going to get ready to blast off. So as long as we're above the upward sloping support lines, you know the deal, right? Long and strong, continue to push. Bitcoin, to me, this speaks not to a rollover. Now, I know a bunch of you, and myself included, are all hoping that we can get a nice sharp pullback down here and then go. That would be really nice. I know a bunch of you watching would like to see that as your first choice. However, we have to be open to having some kind of bull flag break from here. So if that's the case, that's the case. We'll just have to deal with that as it comes. But I'm kind of getting ready to see something like this and then a breakout. And if, of course, we can meet these conditions, then I would likely add along on this breakout. The Ethereum trade, still holding it, still going nowhere. That's fine. XRP lost this green zone, hasn't it? So we'll see what happens here. I'm just going to continue to push this trade as well. As per yesterday's video, we added a position in Coinbase. So we'll see what can happen out of here, but respect the breakout and slowly adding exposure back. Still holding MicroStrategy, as you can see, so not much more to say about that. Riot will not break out yet. So if it can break out, then we'll add the long back here as well, and it will look something like this. But for now, continuously rejected. So I wonder if this has got one more dive down to do into the end of the month before it can go. That is to be determined, of course. Marathon, super high performance at the moment. As you can see, it's just blasting out of here. So that's fine. We're still holding the initial position, and I think any pullbacks can be bought, but will they show up or won't they? That is the question. So overall, things seem to be progressing how they should be. Need to see a few more candles, need to get through this week, but then I think it's time to look for some swings and get fully allocated to risk again, get full exposure back in the equities, and hopefully we'll be able to add a little bit more crypto exposure. I've still got plenty from lower down, but you know how it is with Bitcoin, right? When it goes down, you feel bad, and then when it goes up, you still feel bad because you realize you're probably never going to have enough. But manage greed, manage expectations, have a longer term horizon. And remember that people tend to vastly overestimate what they can achieve in the short term and vastly underestimate what they can achieve in the long term. I hope you're doing well in life. I wish you all the best. And until next time, take care from me. Cheers. Bye.